to elect to start this duel off between the USA versus Germany.
It looks like we see a copy of one of the Musketeer monsters, something that we saw just a little bit of when we featured Joshua in the first round. He also has spell cards, which are all of the Musketeers' #1 friends. This is Caspar.
All right, so he's going to use Fiendsmith track in that same column as Caspar, as you mentioned, Joe. Let's see if Landon does have a response here.
Does look like he has a copy of Infinite Impermanence with a Caspar.
So that is going to resolve, so Caspar won't be able to get its effect, but Fiendsmith's track will resolve, letting him add a Light Fiend to the hand, and then Josh will discard a card.
The Caspar would have allowed him to search Starfire. That is the other Musketeer monster in his deck.
All right, looks like Josh is going to add Fiendsmith's Engraver and discard a second copy of Fiendsmith's track. So I guess potentially maybe to use the Engraver to get a third copy of Fiendsmith's track with his hand. So he's going to link away the Light Fiend there to go into Fiendsmith's Requiem, then activate Requiem's effect to tribute to special from the deck. And Landon has Mulcharmy Fualos.
That's a really important point to note when he activated that. He waited for the Requiem effect, so Joshua's a little bit more invested into his play now.
Thank you.
Now you see some players just drop Fualos in the standby phase, but we watch here Landon already 6-0 into this tournament, understanding how to sequence his plays to maximize the damage of Fualos.
Yeah, you got to wait for those opportune moments to actually activate the card.
Just thinking what to summon.
Okay, so the chain does resolve, so he's moving on just to trying to decide if he wants to go for an Engraver or a Lacrima. It looks like he is just going to summon the Engraver out of his hand.
Wow, so that's a way to stop the draw.
That's
a somewhat
cool.
painful way, but a way nevertheless.
That's cool. I like it. Neat stuff. Josh always finding the workarounds here, but only leaves him with 2 cards in his hand. I mean, his hand definitely not an ideal start for him, having multiple copies of Fiendsmith's track. And then he's just going to pass with Engraver in defense mode.
Wow.
Fualos really shutting down Josh's turn here. I mean, also maybe not having the strongest opening hand to begin with.
He has a copy of the Effect Failure, and it looked like a Ghost Ogre. This is the absolute last thing that Joshua wanted to see, which is first action Pot of Desires. Because if Joshua was hoping to play a game where both players just had a lot of hand interactions and then potentially grind through the Fiendsmith engine to eventually win, Pot of Desires is just going to give Landon too many resources for Joshua to be able to compete against.
Yeah, I mean, essentially, as long as you don't banish anything too crazy off those top 10 cards, Pot of Desires basically looks like Pot of Greed if you squint hard enough. And now the first move here from Landon is going to be X Ryzeal. So he can special summon from his hand and sends a card from the extra deck to the graveyard. It's just like Cyber Dragon, where you just kind of special summon into the field. It's not like an effect that activates in the hand. That's something to know.
He's sending Aggregator to the graveyard.
Yep, Aggregator, as we mentioned, is going to protect his X Ryzeal from being stopped by something like Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring.
Special, yeah.
Going to grab Sword Ryzeal, special summon Sword Ryzeal, and then activate Sword Ryzeal's effect. That's going to add Ice Ryzeal to the hand.
And he still has his normal summon. Both of those were special summon effects. And of course, that allow him now to summon Ice Ryzeal as a normal summon if he chooses to do so. He may first decide to make an overlay play. He has a lot of different options here. He actually looks like he has a copy of Plug in his hand as well. Even if Josh has something like a Nibiru at some point in this turn, he's going to be able to refuel the field.
The deck. Oh, my God.
All right, now overlay. Let's see if he's going to go straight into Duo Driver Detonator. And it looks like it's Detonator here first. So he's going to activate Detonator's effect to attach the Aggregator from the graveyard as a material to Detonator.
I think the read here is he assumed the only reason that Joshua would pass that way is if he has Nibiru in hand. So he's just going to elect to play around Nibiru. I can't imagine he puts another monster on the field. He probably sees that he has, looks like an Infinite Impermanence in hand, Detonator's interactions plus the Aggregator, plus having a copy of Plug-in already. So if the Detonator is removed from the field, he can just refuel. Yeah, this is exactly what he's doing. He's reading the Nibiru, or it's actually not even there, but he's reading a potential Nibiru in hand as to why Joshua would be willing to pass with the play that he made the previous turn.
Have I made?
Yeah, at least just hedging his bets. Not doing more than he has to, knowing that he has so many more cards than Josh. But we saw Josh in round number 1 when he got that first round feature match that even with few cards he had, he's still able to make a pretty big board thanks to cards like, I mean, there's one Magical Musketeer that's quite good against 3 spell and trap cards, and that's going to be Max from the extra deck if he can find a way to get to it.
Now we see Requiem, this time actually summoning from the deck.
The Master Duel World Champion thinking about what he wants. He gets Lacrima, the Crimson Tears. All right, it looks like this is going to prompt Landon to chain Detonator, targeting Lacrima to destroy it, and then he's going to chain Infinite Permanence, so he won't be able to send a Fiendsmith card to the graveyard.
Which would have possibly been Paradise.
Potentially, or an Engraver, another
Engraver,
Light
yeah.
Fiend of some sort.
Well, but the Engraver and Graveyard, I have to imagine it would have been Fiendsmith and Paradise.
Josh contemplating his options, low on cards, but not hope. Is this a third copy of Fiendsmith's Tract?
I think it is. I think he drew that for turn, which would be quite impressive.
Tough to draw 3 copies of that. Having to summon an Engraver from your hand, but looks like he's thinking about using the Engraver in the graveyard first, but...
I won't go back in.
All right, not going back in the deck. Gonna make sure it's all shuffled and randomized, and passes it back. He's hoping Landon maybe sticks along that same game plan where he's not investing too many monsters in the field and he might be able to survive this turn. We'll have to see if that's going to be the case, but Landon knows that's what Josh is trying to do, and he's going to keep the pressure up. He has that Ice Ryzeal he got in his hand for the follow-up on the previous turn, and Josh is going to meet that with an Effect Veiler.
And if you respected Nibiru on the first turn, you're sure to assume that he's going to respect it here on the second turn.
One res. Okay, Lacrima effect.
All right, now in an open game state, Josh is going to use the quick effect of Lacrima in the graveyard to shuffle itself back to special summon Link Fiendsmith monster. That's going to bring back Fiendsmith Requiem to the field. And Fiendsmith Requiem has a quick effect during the main phase. It contributes itself to special summon out that Lacrima. So now Lacrima is going to try and activate its effect again to send a Fiendsmith card from the deck to the graveyard. Let's see if Landon has a response. Let's see if he does basically the same thing. He could just still have Detonator plus an Infinite Permanence.
Looks like his hand is actually 2 copies of Mulcharmies. I believe full Velos. I don't think he's playing any other Mulchar. No, he actually is playing Peruli in his main deck as well.
All right, so he's going to chain the Detonator. That's going to destroy Lacrima, the Crimson Tears. Effect still resolves, destroyed but not negated. I know that's a popular concept among duelists to talk about on the internet.
Yeah.
All the way back to Mystical Space Typhoon.
Landon's just double checking Fiendsmith and Paradise, so we can do the same. The point here that really matters is that if Landon were to special summon a monster, because Fiendsmith and Paradise is in the graveyard, Fiendsmith and Paradise could be banished, which would then allow Joshua to send a Fiendsmith monster from his deck or extra deck to the graveyard. Presumably that would be Desiree, which would then allow him to send a card on the field to the graveyard. Which is one way of getting around Detonator's protection effect.
Ooh, we see the Quarter Century Secret Air Bonfire coming down. Love the way it looks. That's going to add extra Ryzeal to the hand.
We're only on 1 summon. And again, although Joshua doesn't have Nibiru, Landon is going to play as if he does.
Yeah, when you're in such a commanding position, you really just want to play around like the only thing that could be detrimental to your play. May make the game go on a little bit longer, but that's also the balance. You got to find out if you give them time, will they be able to come back? Or if you have enough resources where no matter how much time you're going to give them, you're still going to be able to control the game. That's where the mid-range, the combo strategies vary. And Ryzeal is one of those decks where you can play it like a mid-range deck or you can kind of go all out. But it looks like Abyss Dweller is going to be coming down here from Landon.
So, wow, if he activates the Fiendsmith and Paradise, the Abyss Dweller is just going to be changed and it's going to shut off a potential Desiree effect.
If you're a Ryzeal player out here watching this right now and want to know tips on how to play this matchup, here you go. Landon's giving them to you for free right now. When you see that Fiendsmith in Paradise, if, as Joe said, the next move is Dweller, that will protect you from Desiree, as you can chain the Dweller to the Paradise. Smart stuff from Landon all over.
I think a lot of players would have been tempted to go into Duo Drive because that's just, typically when you're able to resolve that, one of your best pathway to victory. But no, Abyss Dweller really here is the ideal play. It also means that if you weren't considering Abyss Dweller as a rank 4 to put into your deck, it absolutely should be slotted in, especially if the Fiendsmith and Paradise interaction is going to continue to be a popular part of the format.
Definitely. And more to your point from earlier, he did summon 1, 2, 3, 4 times and then went to battle phase as well. So not too many summons here to play into something like Nibiru, but enough to play around the cards that Josh currently has. Unfortunately, I mean, Josh is doing the best he can with what he's got. You know, drawing 3 copies of Fiendsmith's Tract is not where you want to be. It does look like he drew a Magical Musketeer.
And he does have a spell card still.
And the Detonator only has 1 material. Okay, but Josh using the Engraver effect before Abyss Dweller can be activated. I mean, it could have been activated, but he noticed that Lena didn't do it right away. So now he's trying to take advantage of that fact. Smart moves here from Josh.
Yeah, on rest, I will activate.
Now I have to imagine he's going to summon what looks like... It's hard to tell which Musketeer he has in hand. With a Spell or Trap card, he would be able to activate the Musketeer Max's effect to special summon from the deck as well.
That's what I say. You could never count Josh out. Even when things just look so grim, he always, like, he doesn't give up. He finds a way.
I'll always think back to that turn where he was able to put Desiree in every Link monster that the Fiendsmith engine has on the field.
Try to enter battle.
All right, so going to the battle phase, going to try and clean up the board, making sure there's not a water material under Abyss Dweller. But going to take out the node Ryzeal here.
That is important because we know that Landon, at least from our perspective, we know that he doesn't have any follow-up in his hand.
Yeah.
I think he still actually has the plug-in set, though, from earlier, if I was correct with what I saw. He does have some degree of follow-up on the following turn if Joshua was able to find a way of getting around Detonator.
Yeah, in phase 2. Starfire.
All right, normal summons Magical Musketeer Starfire.
Yeah, good.
I'm telling you, these Musketeers matter. People always talk about there's only a few of them, but they make all the difference. And it's just like if there's just a few Kashtira monsters, it can make a lot of difference. The Magical Musketeers being Light Fiends is huge. Max is huge. These cards are really good. I mean, there's a reason why it won that EU YCS in Bologna just a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, I've seen plenty of the Fiendsmith Kashtira variation over the course of the last few weeks. Not as much of the Musketeers, but just seeing how much of a grind game that the additional light Fiends give you has really convinced me that really this Musketeer package may be, and that's tough for me to say as someone who really likes the Kashtira cards.
For sure. I mean, this is where you've seen it. Max is coming out right now. Since Landon does have a spell or trap, he can special summon a magical Musketeer from the deck, unless Landon has...
First or the second one?
The one that summons for your back row.
Just clarifying, because otherwise he would be able to search for a couple spell or trap cards. Of course, we know they're not in his deck. But Landon does ask just to verify what effect is being activated, because it is true that the Musketeer Max does have multiple effects. But it is, in fact, the effect that's going to allow him to special summon another Musketeer from his deck. Probably going to be another copy of Starfire, because he didn't activate Starfire itself earlier.
Tell me more how Yu-Gi-Oh! Just ends in one turn. This is what I'm talking about. This is so good. Love it when 2 excellent duelists face off against each other. The matches are they're complex, they're smart. The biggest thing is neither player is giving up based on how they drew. A lot of people defeat themselves before they even try and play a game because it's not the hand that they want. They're like, oh, I'm not going to win this game. I drew bad. But the best players work with what they have.
Joshua found a way of creating the illusion of Nibiru that actually may have bought him this turn. Because that opening play of just passing with Fiendsmith Engraver on field with 2-hand interactions, which he actually still has one of the Ghost Ogre, gave off the impression of Nibiru that Landon has respected for the entirety of this game. Looks like we're going to see Engraver and Max be sent away as link material for Little Knight.
Okay, that's a good one.
SP effect.
SP Little Knight's going to banish Detonator, so imagine this will prompt Landon to chain. Josh has already used his battle phase, so no worries there.
So he'll probably destroy.
Target will be.
Either way,
It's
I think
tough.
Josh just
Yeah.
takes SP and whatever he targets out of the equation and uses SP to banish them both until the end phase, potentially.
Yeah, so Landon can force the interaction if he wants, as opposed to giving Joshua the option. And I think it just makes sense to do that, to force this interaction, as opposed to give Joshua the opportunity to potentially do something else.
Oh, he's going to get that material off of Dweller by targeting the Dweller, so his Fiendsmith in Paradise will be back online on the following turn. Genius.
Absolutely.
Genius. Yeah. It looked like he had, once again, I told you, it's just like round one. It looks like Josh doesn't have much going for him, but he finds a way to clear the board up and has multiple interactions during his opponent's turn. This is what defines greatness.
He still has the SP Little Knight, too.
It's so multiple interactions from almost nothing. It's literally how I feel every time I played against Josh. It's just like, it's just relentless, like so good.
Yeah, that's what I was saying earlier. Like, you just target the Little Knight to force the Little Knight to activate and potentially, obviously it can save itself, but it forces it. Now he's in this nightmare scenario where the Abyss Dweller is banished and, as you just mentioned, lost that material. So it was plug-in set that whole time.
So on the other side, though, Landon is an excellent duelist. He's not going to go away quietly. He is going to activate Ryzeal plugin to special summon Sword from the graveyard.
I think he has Fuwalos in hand, and I think the fact that it's a level 4 might end up mattering on this following turn.
That's right. Ryzeal Duo Drive is generic as opposed to Detonator, which requires multiple, but he's going to also be able to use the Sword to add Ice, which is one of the strongest follow-up cards you can have.
That's going to be his normal summon then.
Yep. Dweller is coming back. The Magical Musketeer Starfire returns to the field.
I wonder if Joshua is going to be able to use Little Knight and the Ghost Ogre in his hand in combination, and maybe shut Landon off of having 2 level 4s on the field.
Potentially. I mean, this is what's great about watching two amazing duelists play. Like, you just don't know who has the edge until it's all over and said and done. Normal summon Ice, no effect.
I wonder if that Pot of Desires banished a bunch of his targets. Yeah, that's exactly what Joshua is checking right now.
How many is he missing? What can be banished? Does he just not want to play into SP Little Knight? Like, what is Landon thinking is what's going through Josh's head. Josh is thinking what's Landon's thinking, and Landon's thinking what is Josh thinking. Beautiful to watch in action. I love it when two excellent duelists face off on the dueling field.
And Ice can summon any Ryzeal from deck, so it's particularly interesting there because, you know, some of the other ones restrict you to Pyros or Thunders. That's not the case with Ice. The decision not to activate the effect was really solely just to be able to attack over that Little Knight and not give Joshua the opportunity to use Little Knight's effect to essentially protect itself.
Indeed, and that is exactly what he's doing. Taking a page out of Josh's book, going straight into the battle phase just like Josh did last turn, attacking over the SP Little Knight. I don't think any of these are big enough to attack over Starfire, though.
Important to note that he still has Joshua, the Fiendsmith in Paradise.
Oh, he does still have some interaction. What is Starfire's defense? Let me look it up. 1,700. Yeah, that's going to be big enough. But it looks like Landon goes into Detonator. Detonator's effect's going to activate targeting Aggregator to try and equip it. Josh chains Fiendsmith in Paradise to try and send.
Yep, he's going to send the Desiree to the graveyard, and then Desiree does not destroy. It sends, so Desiree is going to be able to deal with the Detonator.
So he's going to use Desiree to put Max back in the extra deck just in case he wants to summon it again later on, and that's going to send the Detonator to the graveyard. Very important that it sends since the Detonator has that built-in destruction protection for Xyz monsters.
Unfortunately for Landon, he's just stuck with an Abyss Dweller with some Ultra Armies in hand. And now this is where the grind game is just going to come into play.
This is so good. I love it. I love watching this matchup. These two decks go at it. I mean, this was like one of the questions going into this weekend. How will the decks that did well just a couple weeks ago at the EU YCS fare going into the crossover breakers decks? And Josh is saying pretty well, as long as it's piloted correctly. This is still the game where he drew 3 Fiendsmith track.
This is amazing, too, because I was even thinking for a second, this is multiple turns ago, I had this thought of, do you banish the Fiendsmith in Paradise to one of those earlier special summons just to force out the Abyss Dweller activation on Landon's turn so that then on your turn you can bait it out a second time and just kind of eat through both of the activations? Josh was like, no, I'm just going to SP Little Knight it eventually. Don't you worry, that Fiendsmith in Paradise is going to matter 2 turns from now when I transition into the grind game.
You can only summon 1 Requiem per turn, but you can use the effect more than once.
Yep, so Josh was clarifying something that actually came up earlier when we watched Fiendsmith. You can only summon Requiem once per turn, but you can activate its effects more than once per turn. And if you're able to special summon it during the end phase because of Lacrima, you're actually ultimately able to activate 2 effects during your upcoming turn.
Smart stuff. Heads up plays here from Josh. Landon had control of the game, but kind of sitting on the back burner now. And then here it is, that third copy of Fiendsmith's track that's been sitting in his hand for quite some time. He's going to send Fabled Lurie. Fabled Lurie is going to special summon itself.
Yep, Joshua does in fact play Lurie. We haven't really seen that up until now. Not that he wouldn't play it, but it does just confirm that for the viewers. I wonder
if he had 3 Fiendsmith's tracked in his deck with no Fabled Lurie, I'm out. I'm out on that. It could be the case, though. You never know. Because we haven't seen him use track to get access to Engraver.
I wonder how confident Josh is on the 2 cards in Landon's hand.
I mean, I'm feeling like he almost probably has to have a read on them at this point because they've just been sitting there for so long.
Yeah.
Well, maybe he doesn't have a read on it as he's going here, attack.
Main 2?
And main 2, we're gonna find out what those cards are in his hand, I think. Nope. He's just going to, maybe he wants to chain a sequence to guarantee a draw? If it is, in fact, Koalas.
It is. He has 2 copies of it, though.
So he could just chain both to the sequence effect?
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
It might be Perilia because he's not using them here.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Yeah, it looks
He
like they
would've
might be.
activated them.
Can't really tell when they're quarter century secret in the hand.
Yeah, it is a little bit hard to tell.
So Desiree comes down. Those get linked away for Fiendsmith. I got to look at it every time I say it, otherwise I'm going to mess up the name. Agnum Day.
Agnum Day is now going to special summon back out the Desiree, equipped it, giving it piercing, giving it an additional attack boost. Sequence comes out, so now it can't be affected by card effects.
Or can't be targeted.
Specifically by card effects, yeah, of course. Doesn't need that additional.
Gains plenty of attack points thanks to the Agnum Day. And now Josh has taken control of the driver's seat of this game. That did not look like it was going well for him. But here we go. We see the normal summon of the Mulcharmy.
I think that is Perilia, though.
It is.
I mean,
Fualos,
yeah.
It's wind.
So I'm surprised he didn't activate it last turn, then.
Probably decided just to hold it because it got met by something like Ash Blossom, he'd be down a level 4, and he's just going straight into Typhon here.
I think his hand is 3 of them, though. Like, take a look at his hand.
That's going to be met by Ghost Ogre. Can you target it? What does sequence say? Does it give it? Oh, it gives the effect to Desiree.
Oh, yes.
Yep, that's what it is. Yep.
Yeah, these players knew that instantly, but yeah, it is an important thing to know, just the nature in which Typhon works.
Yeah, I'm never going to... I would always trust these guys to know what's going on. Now, Agnum Day coming out again.
Yep.
But it is activate with Typhoon.
And now he's going to shuffle back the sequence to summon back Engraver. You can send the Engraver for Requiem. We're really just seeing the grind game, as you mentioned, how it just keeps on going. How many turns is this, by the way? Everyone says the games are over in 1 turn, and there's Fualos met by an Ash Blossom. The game just keeps getting better and better. These duelists are just both at the top of their game right now, and it's just incredible to watch.
Yeah, regardless of that Typhoon interaction, I think Joshua's just so far ahead at this point.
You're at 73?
Yeah.
I mean, he has a lot of damage. If the Agnum Day can summon the Desiree... Oh, the Desiree got returned from Typhon, so he's going to have to go into sequence if he wanted to get to that again. So he's going to equip to Lacrima of the Crimson Tears. That's a Fiend plus a monster equipped. So that's Necroquip Princess.
Battle phase?
Yeah.
So he's going to go battle.
Okay.
Yep.
18.
So that's 38. So that's going to leave Landon with 3,500 life points, I believe.
And now we have
Yep.
special summon back Engraver,
Another 18, I believe.
plus the boost
Agnum Day.
of 24.
And that's
or
enough.
18, rather. Yeah,
That's
enough.
42, yep.
42.
Anaheim round number 7. Landon will probably be starting things off for us here with his Ryzeal deck. Gonna start things off with Bonfire.
Looks like he unfortunately drew one of the Mulcharmies. I couldn't tell exactly which one, which is presumably there because he has a copy of Crossout Designator, so he wants to keep those in the deck as a crossout target.
And then Ash Blossom is gonna be hit by Crossout Designator. Bonfire Crossout, good start. But what other interactions may lay in wait in Josh's hand? It's not going to be the same Bonfire that we're used to. Bonfire for Snake Eye Ash or Bonfire for Snake Eyes Poplar. Going to be getting something a little bit different, and it's going to be Ryzeal, Sword Ryzeal, I believe. Or it could be X. It's probably X. Yeah, it's X. X will get you to Sword. But Josh, we saw this earlier too. He doesn't have a strong enough to start. Let's see how Josh is going to play this one.
I like Landon's hand. He has a Mulcharmy and Nibiru.
Those cards either work really well together or really awkwardly together, but you'll at least be able to get the Nibiru for sure on the following turn no matter what. You definitely feel really safe seeing those cards if you're going second in your opening hand.
Here we have Caspar, which is going to immediately turn into Requiem.
Doing its best impression of a Fabled Glory, but no, it's not going to go into Max.
Yeah, this is...
More Light Fiends. That makes sense. And you don't have to worry about wasting the thing because you're going to shuffle it back into your extra deck. I guess return it. You don't really shuffle things back into your extra deck.
Ooh,
but Called by the Grave. Huge.
I was just about to ask the question. You think he's going to summon from deck again, or from hand rather than deck, like we saw in the previous game? But no.
No.
He is going to go unimpeded by the Mulcharmy, and now he's going to summon Lacrima from the deck.
Lacrima, the Crimson Tears, is going to send down a Fiendsmith card.
And now we have Requiem equipped to Lacrima, which is going to allow him now to go into Necroquip. And I think he has Engraver in hand. So yeah, this is fantastic for Joshua.
Yeah, being able to go in the Necroquip Princess is going to give you that free draw as you add Fiendsmith Track to your hand. Cool little interactions. Being able to maximize your combos. Get your best chance of getting to some more disruptions.
He's hoping for D-Barrier, Dimensional Barrier. I saw a trap, but it was Paradise, unfortunately.
That's the last card he wants to see.
I don't necessarily agree per se, because if you can set it up, Desiree plus Paradise is actually pretty powerful.
Yeah, if he goes uninterrupted here, could end up being really cool. I want to see the on-field effect be activated. It just gets rid of all the cards.
Obviously, you want to access it through your combo. However, it does have a reasonable effect. There have been some cards like that, those singleton trap cards throughout the years. Kashtira Big Bang, for example, where every once in a while you're like, wow, this effect is actually really quite powerful right now.
Yeah, I mean, if you read that effect like back in the day, you'd think it's absolutely insane. Like sending all cards on the field of the graveyard except for the fusion, that sounds pretty crazy, but looks like he's thinking if he wants to overlay for a rank 6, but no, he is going to link them away for that Fiendsmith sequence, probably because he does have that Paradise in hand. Now, this is the big moment. The Paradise becomes a bad draw if there's any sort of effect negation on sequence. You know, Josh is probably holding his breath there, and there is nothing, and he's going to be able to return the materials required to summon Fiendsmith's Desiree.
Landon has a Nibiru in hand. It's really interesting that Josh chose to go into this line as opposed to maybe potentially trying to prioritize High King Caesar.
It's because he drew the Paradise, so he feels like he has to do it to turn it online, but it really was just, it's going to backfire on him, as you mentioned, because of that Nibiru. I don't want to say it too loud. No, we're significantly far away from these duelists. They can't hear me, even no matter how loud my voice is. But Nibiru, the Primal Being, is going to be dropped on the Agmon.
As we saw in a previous feature match, Nibiru can be a bit of a liability when you're playing the Ryzeal strategy. You don't necessarily always want a monster on the field that's a non-level 4 or rank 4. So it'll be interesting. We can't really make out the entirety of Landon's hand, how he's going to navigate through that. Actually, he has 2 copies of Pot of Desires. We may be lacking a Ryzeal starter. We'll see on the following turn. In terms of what Josh can still do here, he still has that Fiendsmith track to allow him to search presumably a copy of Fabled Blurry. Oh, no. He's going for Caspar, and he's discarding the Paradise.
Nice. There's more interactions, more ways to get it out of your hand. A backup plan since he wasn't able to get that Desiree to stick onto the field. So at least he has some interaction here.
His understanding of the deck is obviously exceptional, right? I think a lot of players, as I kind of default to do, just assume that you would use that for Lurie, but no, he's going for a follow-up and then discarding that Fiendsmith in Paradise so that he has some degree of interaction. And he is playing 2 copies of Fiendsmith Desiree for anyone that is curious at home.
Pot of Desire is going to base the top 10, and that's going to be immediately met by Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring. Josh hoping this is going to be enough to prevent the Ryzeal cards from coming out. Maybe he didn't draw any. He had the Fuwalos, Desires, Nibiru. That only leaves him with a couple more cards in hand.
Including another Desires, which is the absolute last thing that Landon wants right now. Here comes back out the Desiree, too.
So the Nibiru just wasn't able to really get the job done in the end.
Now, because of the Agande, you were able to see this interaction here where it was special summoned out with the Requiem, and now we have Desiree right back on the field.
Yeah, I know. I heard that that's a play they were kind of doing with the player on Tempai Dragon. You get Regeki'd during the battle phase, you can use Lachrimar the Crimson Tears to go into the Agande from your graveyard and then bring back that Desiree as well. So just capitalizing on sort of the plays like that. Here to play through Nibiru as well. And it looks like he does have an Ice Ryzeal. This is the last thing that Josh wants to see, but he has Effect Veiler. Effect Veiler is going to stop Landon in his tracks. This is game 3 between 2 titans of the game.
We want to note here that he's choosing not to use Desiree's effect instead. He's leaving that on field for
a spell or trap.
Spell, something like maybe Triple Tactics.
Smart stuff. But now we're going to see the Nibiru and a Link summon here in Ryzeal, only for Donner for hire, but that's going to prompt Josh to use the Fiendsmith in Paradise, sending Desiree to send the Donner. Landon's clock is running out here. He's going to need to find a way to get more monsters on the field, or this could be Josh's match. And he does. He has another Ryzeal. It's X Ryzeal. That's huge.
Yeah, this game is going to continue.
So Aggregator's going to target Desiree. Desiree's going to negate the X Ryzeal, so he's not going to be able to add.
What's crazy is he needed the Nibiru to be off the field for him to do that. Obviously, the Donner then. But the play there that I commented on earlier, how Nibiru could actually be a bit of a liability, partially came into effect on this turn, and it looks like that's going to be it for Landon.
Wow, what a match. And Joshua Schmidt is